Hello, listeners. It is Friday. And as you can tell, I've been watching way too much of the Puss in Boots.
Love Puss in Boots.
I want my entire life narrated by Antonio Banderas.
Down.
Yes, he is the a-hole. And as you can tell, joining me today is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to Friday, where better days are coming. It's Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, why don't we jump right into the stories while enjoying my morning cup of brew. And what have you made for me today?
Today I've made you a tea that has a little bit of orange peel in it to get that citrusiness, some ginger root to help with your immunity, and hibiscus to make it a little sweet.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's the ginger, right? It really pops out right
there.
there.
Yeah, it's a little gingery. It's a 3 out of 5, I think.
Okay.
It's not bad.
For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I an a-hole for quote-unquote stealing my sister's in-laws? I always thought my sister, 27 female, and I, 25 male, had a decently close relationship until a few years ago when it came out that she thought of me as a golden child. She held resentment towards me for things I just looked at as the typical, more lax treatment of the younger child in a family. I honestly thought the whole thing was pretty silly, especially since we were both years out of being under our parents' roof at this point. So we went a while without talking. We saw each other at family events, but didn't really speak. I was invited to her engagement party as a form of an olive branch extension. It was there I met her future husband's younger brother, and we immediately got along. The two of us got to know each other and spent about a year as friends before making things official around a month before my sister's wedding. I love his family so much. His parents are warm and inviting in a way that feels so genuine, even before I was introduced as a significant other. Not to knock my parents, but with them being lawyers and working politically adjacent careers, it can be easy to become jaded when you watch them schmooze to people's faces, even when that doesn't reflect their true feelings. I was the first person he ever brought home to meet them, and they made me feel like part of the family immediately. Their youngest brother has been equally as welcoming and regularly schools me in Overwatch 2 by staying alive far longer than I ever could. When I told my sister this, thinking it was something we could bond over, she was angry again. Apparently, she didn't receive the same treatment. This resulted in a huge argument, which led to her saying something to the effect of, "I guess this is what happens when two golden children get together." I pushed back against this, and it further devolved with her pointing out that out of all the people in the world, she couldn't believe I had chosen her husband's brother. She said I had stolen opportunities from her growing up, and now I was stealing her in-laws. I considered telling my partner's parents about this at one point to let them know the animosity my sister apparently holds toward them, but I decided against it. I don't really know where I stand in this conflict, and at this point, I just like some outside perspective. Am I the a-hole?
Okay, so on initial glance, this story may sound harmless in my assessment as you're reading it, but there is quite a lot of bad in here. We're talking about OP here is 25 and his sister is 27.
Correct.
So from the onset, he tells us that sister and him had a decent relationship for a while, he thought anyway. He says a few years ago, they had a conversation. His sister tells him that she feels like he's been the golden child this entire time of their growing up, getting preferential treatment. However, all those things were, what they were, we don't exactly know, but this is how she's viewing it through her eyes. And his response to that was, I don't care, essentially. Blew her off, didn't really care about it. And so this started a rift. They go no contact for several years, from what I understand, until sister at 27, in his words, reaches out the olive branch and invites him, ROP, to a party. And this is where the story starts getting a little darker, because at this engagement party, he's introduced to future brother-in-law and brother-in-law's brother. They start a relationship out of that. I don't know whether or not that's appropriate, especially when you're talking about the relationship that him and his sister already had.
You really can't stop who you love.
Sure, and that's true, but given where they were at already, he discounts how she feels completely. We'll start with that fact. He doesn't care how she feels. He gets into a relationship with the brother. It turns out that they, I hope, love each other. And this wasn't some weird long-term, long-game scheme of his, because it sounds like he points out that his parents are lawyers and they schmooze. I think he's the schmoozer too. I think there's a lot of conniving and cunning in him, because he, to my mind, almost fooled me into believing that he's the harmless brother that fell in love with his sister's fiance's brother. And initially, I bought into it. But he's clearly a manipulator, because he doubles down in this story pretty badly. He starts talking about how the sister comes to him again after he lets her know how great his new family is. I don't know how good he is at planning, but it seems like things kind of fell in the way they were supposed to, according to him. So he has this great relationship that he's fostering with the family, and that's great. That's your in-laws, that's your new brother, that's great. But it almost feels like there was an ulterior motive to doing some of these things in this story, because he's now using it as a poking stick. Hey, look how great my life is. Look at all this new amazing treatment I'm getting. And she says, I'm not getting that kind of stuff from them. And instead of him seeing it the way he should have, as a warm person that he tries to convey himself as, he only uses as more wood to stoke the flame that is his lies. Because he's saying, I felt like I should have gone to my partner's parents and told them how much animosity she has towards them. She has zero animosity towards them, douche. It's you. You're creating these problems. And again, it sounds harmless until you start actually looking at the details. OP, you're a foul person. I'm happy you found love, but it almost feels like you weaponized it to hurt your sister. And you're definitely the a-hole, and I'm shocked you'd put something like this on the internet.
Well, the consensus is that the poster is the a-hole. And you hit on all the points really quite clearly. The first is his admission that he did get lax treatment or some form of favorable treatment when she tells him that she's upset that he was treated like the golden child. And rather than trying to empathize with her and try and strengthen the relationship and make it better, he blows off all of her concerns. And when they really don't talk, he doesn't try and reach out. Yeah. Instead, she reaches out to him in the form of trying to include both sides of the families, her potentially new ones and her family. Now, rather than try and make their relationship better, instead yes, a lot of commenters did put down, it's like he's bragging about what he has and it's better than hers. And when she says, that's not how I get treated, once again, he doesn't say, well, let's try and make this better. Why don't we all sit down and have a talk and really, really try and fix this? Because if I'm seeing them as family, you should also be seen as family, same as me. Instead, what he does is exactly as you said. Yep. He turns around and he says, well, I feel like I should tell my partner's parents about her animosity.
That's so foul.
And that could undermine everything that she's trying to build when it comes to having positive family ties. I think that is honestly what really stuck out to a lot of commenters. Because if that's your first thought in this situation, it shows what kind of family relationship between the two of them they've always had.
Sure.
And it was always him probably tattletelling in one way, shape, or form to make his sister look bad.
Well, it's funny too, is she says it, the golden child found the golden child.
My hope is that none of this is what it is. I hope that he
like
did.
We're reading too much into it.
Correct.
It just a hap chance that all of this stuff fell.
Correct. I know it's really weird to say it like that. I would prefer to look at the best.
Sure.
And I can understand it from the commenters' perspectives and especially how you lay it out. It really doesn't seem like he's a very good person, even though he's trying to paint himself into being a victim. And I think it's rough. We only truly have one side, but based on just his key comments, I can understand why the consensus is that he's the a-hole.
I hope he got perspective, because it really does sound like he doesn't see what it looks like.
I think the issue here is it's not that he's the a-hole for stealing stealing his sister's in-laws. He's the a-hole for how he's dealt with his entire relationship with her, and it shows in this post.
Definitely, because I hope we're not saying that
you can't
he's
steal
not the a-hole for falling in
You
love.
can't steal somebody's in-laws.
And they love him and there's mutual respect and it's happy. We're not saying that. What I'm clearly pointing out is that it doesn't feel right how he's maneuvered his way into the situations he has. And then again, weaponizing information against his sister to make a relationship she's trying to foster as well completely deteriorate. And he would know that.
Now, let's go ahead and walk away from this drama. And let's go and see if we can help an uncle for our next story. Am I the a-hole for recording my uncle's drink request? My uncle thinks it's funny to get me to run back and forth between pool and the kitchen getting him drinks. He will say he likes a Coke, then claim he asked for a beer, then asked where his Coke is. He usually blames it on us damn millennials, always being on our phones and not paying attention. For whatever reason, my parents don't tell him to piss off. It started getting old a long time ago, and I usually dealt with it by making myself scarce when he is over. He was visiting over Memorial Day, and he caught me. He asked for a Coke, so I brought him a Coke. Then he said he asked for a beer, so I pulled out my phone and played the video I had recorded of him asking for a Coke. Like most of us damn millennials, I was on my phone when he asked, and I knew what was coming, so I recorded his request. He asked me for a beer because that's what he really wanted, so I told him I would be happy to get him a beer after he finished his drink, because unlike his boomer generation, I don't waste stuff for the fun of it. He got huffy because he was just joking around. The next time he asked me for a drink, my phone was in my pocket, so I pulled it out and said I didn't remember what he asked for. Could he please repeat himself? He said he would get his own drinks. I told him that was a great idea. My parents think I was being a jerk, being rude to a guest and my elder. I thought I was just making sure he got what he asked for. Am I the a-hole? Edit. He is actually a millennial. I am a Gen Z, I guess. And yes, it is cultural as to why I'm expected to fetch him food and drinks.
Interesting. Okay. This is a fun story. Good for you, Gen Z. Hey, you have the technology, use it. I don't see the problem here. He's not the a-hole. It sucks that your parents are placating to their brother. I would never let my brother treat our son like that, nor would my brother ever do that to our son. So we would never have to worry about that kind of situation.
Never.
It may have started harmless, like, oh, I asked for this, but someone going and getting you something on request, it's very nice. But to abuse that and have someone run back and forth, that's a problem. That's called control. And he likes to exert it over people, it sounds. And guess what? Sounds like you got dunked on. Good for you, OP. Keep it up. Now he knows that's the expectation going forward. Don't ask me for stuff you can get yourself, because you abuse that privilege. You're definitely not the a-hole, OP.
Well, the consensus is that he's not the a-hole. In fact, the real issue among the commenters is, this is gaslighting, and it's not cute at all. That's the end of my thing. I'm very concise.
Let's hear it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and fetch us our own drinks while we go to our next story. But wait, are we getting kidnapped?
What?
For our next story. Am I the a-hole for kidnapping my baby, causing my husband to have a panic attack? I, 29 female, recently started working again after having my daughter 4 months. Daycare is too expensive, so my husband, 35 male, reluctantly agreed to stay home. It's important to know that he's been unemployed since 2021. He receives benefits. It's also important to know that he's extremely lazy. He doesn't cook, clean, or help out in any way. I was nervous about leaving her home with her father, but I had no choice. When I came back from work, she was clean and sleeping. A few times I came home, he was either playing with her, feeding her, or out for a walk with her. I was happy. A few days ago, my neighbor told me that as soon as I leave, the baby cries, and she cries for hours. My neighbor said that she knocked on our door and he finally answered it. He was sleeping. I concluded that he sleeps all day, and right before I come home, he pretends to care for her. I decided to take the day off of work. I left home at my regular time, waited 30 minutes, and then went home. Sure enough, He was knocked out asleep with his stupid noise-canceling headphones on. I went to my daughter's room, scooped her up, and took her to my friend's house. I waited about 2 hours and finally called him to tell him that I was coming home early. He called me back saying that he can't find the baby. He told me that he was going to call the police, but before he did, I told him what I did. He called me an a-hole and a lot of other words too. When I got home, his mother was there calming his nerves because he has a panic attack. She also called me an a-hole. My husband decided to sleep at her house. Family members are telling me that I'm a terrible person. I know that it was extreme, but I don't know if I would consider myself to be an a-hole. English isn't my native language. Sorry about the grammar.
No need to be sorry, because we get to see a clown in action. This is a terrible story, though. The father is like, he may be unemployed, right? He's still getting benefits.
He's lazy.
He's very lazy, apparently. But it sounds like he was turning things around, at least for the daughter's sake. He sounded like a doting father. Every time she shows up, they're on a walk, they're playing together, she's changed, all the good stuff. So I'm like, oh, cool. This is a great story. Nope. He is a bad dad. And that's very sad because the only person that pays for that is the child. Well, no, the wife too, because she had to take a day off just to see that you're a clown. She takes the kid, and I'm willing to bet, had she not called him to wake him up from his nap or whatever the hell he was choosing to do with his time that wasn't involving him taking care of the child or doing any of the household responsibilities, because it sounds like he doesn't do anything. He doesn't cook, clean, and bare minimum for his daughter. That's really bad. I don't even understand why she's putting up with you or your family, because apparently your family thinks that you're God's gift to the earth. Let's just pretend like I'm today's years old.
Okay.
I still can't. This story's stupid. I actually would probably go ahead and start getting some lawyers ready, because they don't, do they say how old they are?
She's 29.
Okay.
He's 35.
Okay. So, nope.
And the baby's 4 months old.
Yeah. That is a situation. How long have they been together? Do we know? All right.
We know at least till 2021.
I would definitely start if there was, because there is a child involved, and I don't know how much she does or doesn't love him. So me saying break up and not knowing the extent of the situation, actually, no. I don't give someone a pass for not knowing the situation. That's really bad, actually. To manipulate a situation to look as if you're being a good father and you're a sleazebag. No, I can't give you a pass for that. Normally I try to look for the good in the situation and go, look, you might be able to work through this stuff, but that just smacks of a liar. And unfortunately, liars lie. Yes, you can work through it through counseling and things like that, but why put up with someone that doesn't want to put in any work in any aspect of your guys' life? I'm certain you guys have had conversations about his laziness. Like I said, I don't like going to that first, but it almost feels like it needs to happen for you and your daughter's sake. You can't have someone like that around. But I definitely don't believe that you are the a-hole.
Well, just to give you the consensus, our poster is not the a-hole. In fact, she had a lot of things to think about when it came to our commenters and their perspectives. One, the poster's husband is neglectful.
Sure.
Of that child. And then on top of that, you're right. He lied. He tried to make it seem like he's this caring and doting father when he's clearly not. Now, let me go ahead and let you know what our poster let our commenters know. They said they are definitely rethinking this relationship.
Good.
And they are looking at a daycare that can potentially take her daughter. It's difficult because we're in this period where daycares generally won't take children younger than 6 months, and her daughter's only 4.
It's also expensive, and
Exactly.
She's the only one working. There's a lot of things piling up.
There is. However, for me, as a mother and as a woman, when it comes to any child, when you put on noise-canceling headphones where somebody, even if it's your wife, can come into the house and take your baby without even knowing, anything could have happened to your 4-month-old child.
I'm willing to bet that had she not called 2 hours later, she probably could have gone the whole day and seen how long it took him to freak out.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm willing to bet it could have been 4 or 5 hours before he realized that baby's not around.
I think for me, every instinct in me tells me that this is not something that you can just overlook. I know between the poster and a commenter that there was a little back and forth, not bad back and forth, good back and forth, where one of the Reddit commenters put down, you can do this. Make a plan with your circle of friends and your family. Make sure that you have everything that you need. But as difficult as it is, you can make it happen. It's just difficult and it's only temporary. And then they sent them a bunch of love and support and told them to be courageous. And our poster responded back that their comment made them cry and thanked them so much just for all that support. So I would just like to say, when it's tough and you have a small child, even if your child's older, you are much stronger than you possibly give yourself enough credit.
Yes, definitely.
Your values are important.
Yes, they are. I hope the best for the OP and the child.
I do as well. Well, let's go ahead and we'll just leave this situation and wish our poster the very best. I know you have the strength to do it. And let's go to our next story regarding Christmas dinner. It's a little weird, right?
It's midsummer, yeah.
But let's see what's going on. Am I the a-hole for bringing up my brother's premature birth at Christmas dinner to get my parents to shut up?
Okay.
I am a nurse practitioner, and I am the primary care provider for a lot of the low-risk maternity cases at the practice where I work. I also work hand in hand with the doctors and midwives to create a healthy maternity, birth, and postpartum situation. My fiancée is completing her residency. We live together and have for a few years now. We aren't in any hurry to get married. We originally had plans to do so a couple of years ago, but then we got really busy for 2 years. It is driving my very religious parents crazy that our youngest son is living in sin. I don't really care. I'm an adult and I do what I want. We are getting married in June, so we are visiting my parents for Christmas. The way it came together this year, everyone is at my parents' house. So that's my folks, my 3 siblings, myself and fiance, and 7 grandchildren.
Ooh.
So 17 people. At dinner, my mom starts going on about how she is so glad that we are finally getting married and she won't be embarrassed at church anymore. And my dad says how proud he is of his 3 older kids who all either waited to get married before moving in together or got married right away after moving in together. My fiancé was getting embarrassed, and I was getting mad over the stupid argument we have had too many times. And a family dinner was the last straw. I have asked them repeatedly to just accept that they cannot control how I live my life. I refuse to stay with them when I visit, even if I come alone. Hotels are just easier. So I started talking about a premature baby I had been reading about. It was almost 3 months premature and weighed about 1.6 pounds. It was super strong and healthy for being so little, and the NICU had high hopes for the baby doing well. My mom and dad both got deer in the headlights looks on their faces. Too bad. Should not have fucked around with my fiance's feelings. So I asked about my oldest brother. He was born almost 4 months premature. Is there a chance that we could check out the family album where we keep all the records of family births and stuff? I already know my brother was over 9 pounds and almost 23 inches long when he was born. My grandmother told me all about it the first time my parents tried to shame me. The subject gets changed very fast. After supper, my parents told me that I should not try to embarrass them with private things that are not my concern. I told them that if I heard anything about my living arrangements ever again for the rest of my life, I would make sure to keep bringing up the fact that my mom was in her 2nd trimester when they got married. My parents are mad at me for telling them how to behave in their own home, but my fiance is happy that they seem to be off the subject for good. Am I the a-hole?
My Lanta. What a great story.
Thank you.
That is a supportive partner. That's what I've been saying like throughout this entirety of how many videos we've made so far.
So many.
If you don't have your partner's back, and there are situations where you shouldn't, but for the most part, you do need to have your partner's back because they are your family now too. If you can't have their back, then why are they with you? That's just how I feel about those type of situations. Sounds like OP was finally over it, and they say it. This has been brought up ad nauseum. This wasn't a first-time occurrence that came up out of the blue. This is something they like to do at the dinner table in front of people.
Christmas dinner.
17 people. Yes, Christmas dinner. No, you deserve what you got. Yeah, good for you. I'm a touching Christmas story.
It is in the middle of summer.
You're definitely not the a-hole, OP. I'm going to give you a big old attaboy and keep supporting your future wife.
Well, as you probably have a feeling for, not the a-hole. In fact, everybody thought this was great. However, the only little faux pas that they even had was you kind of brought your brother into this whole thing. And it's not fair to have done that like at the table and be like, so when were you born, brother?
I mean, I guess, but
they said it's so small.
Yeah,
if anything, it would probably be good in our poster's interest to reach out to his brother and maybe just apologize for kind of dragging him into this whole thing. Well, this makes me sad. I hate walking away from Christmas dinner. The food is always so great. But I guess we can go over and check out a honeymoon maybe?
Okay.
Let's go to our last story of the day, and I look forward to seeing how you feel about this gift. Am I the a-hole for not taking down my video that was a gift from my best man? I have a sister that's 6 years older than me. My parents for years cancel on me last minute because of my sister. I have a basketball game. Oops, sorry, sister doesn't feel like going out. I am graduating. Oops, sorry, sister had a bad day at work. They have missed both major and smaller events in my life because of her meltdowns. I met the love of my life. We decided to tie the knot. From the beginning, I told my parents how I am worried my sister will ruin another special moment in my life. My mom told me over and over again it would not happen. The day of my wedding, I received a voicemail from my mom saying they couldn't come because my sister's dog was sick and she was upset. I was hurt. My best man, however, is a jokester. He took my phone, then went to my fiance and asked if he could post a video of our wedding as a gift on social media. She loved his idea. I had no idea about it until I came home. Our honeymoon was at a lakeside cabin, no cell service. The post caption was, "My best friend. He is an amazing person, even if his parents never show up for him." Video was still pictures of us next to her parents, me on the dance floor, cutting the cake, where you would normally see both parents in wedding pictures. The sound behind the video was my mom's voicemail, explaining how they couldn't come because my sister's dog was sick. I came home a week later to hundreds of messages, family members from both sides insisting I take it down. I was told my sister hasn't stopped crying. My mom is refusing to leave the house. I may be the a-hole here. I didn't take it down when I got my messages. I didn't call my family back right away. I waited until my vacation time was over at work and enjoyed my time with my wife in our new home before I contacted anyone. My dad told me to take down the video. It was just a bad night for them, that they will make it up to me and my wife for not coming. My reply was, exactly how do you plan to make up my wedding? It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You chose to ignore my feelings on the whole matter. Then he just repeated, he will make it up to me. I told him I would take down the video only when he made up missing my wedding. Flustered, we both hung up the phone before we both said things we shouldn't have. Am I the a-hole here? I could have just taken down the video. There is just a question from a commenter and a reply from the poster. So before you get into anything, let's go ahead and see what this question says.
Okay.
Our commenter said, is your sister developmentally disabled in any way? Is this a diagnosed mental issue?
Okay.
The poster said, no, she is just super spoiled. She cries on demand, big crocodile tears whenever she doesn't get her way or when she isn't in the spotlight. My wife thinks my sister did this because she asked her own sisters to be bridesmaids and not my sister. My sister has done it so many times, I think she's just jealous I got married.
It sounds like that she's had a history of doing this, though, throughout all of his important milestones in life. So, you definitely are not the a-hole. Your sister sucks. His sister is just clearly a narcissist and likes the attention. I'm shocked because I'll say it like this. I do blame the sister, but I blame the parents just as much as I blame the sister because the parents allowed her to do this. And I wonder how much of it is the parents also not liking the son. Because if you don't miss a wedding of your kid because a dog got sick, I love our dogs. We would make sure that at least one of us got to go. If something was that bad, and one of us had to be at the vet, one of us would be going to our son's wedding. Period. End of story. But that it stopped both of you from participating in anything. We're not just talking about the wedding. We're talking about graduations. We're talking about, what else did she bring up?
Games.
Any real milestone or games. Everything was put to a halt because the sister wanted it. But again, the parents are just as much as at fault because they allowed this type of behavior to be rewarded. So, OP, you're definitely not the a-hole. Your entire family sucks. Good for you for finding someone that makes you happy. Forge those bonds. Create the family that you didn't have.
Well, the consensus is he's not the a-hole at all. Not even a little. The comments rained down, begging him, do not take that video down. And the only reason why they're feeling the way that they are is because everything's come to light that they are just shitty parents.
That's fantastically awesome, by the way. The voicemail is in the background of the video. Could you imagine being the parents watching this going, oh, their wedding, and then hearing her voice pop over?
I'm sorry, we can't make it to the wedding, sweetheart.
Your sister's dog is ill. Like, come on.
Well, let me go ahead and read one comment, but there's a ton of comments and they got awarded, and they're all either extremely supportive and some very funny. But let me go ahead and read this one to you. There are legitimate reasons for missing your kid's wedding. Anthrax exposure, caught in a hurricane, deathly ill due to a rabid weasel bite.
Sure.
Your favorite child's pet being sick is not one of them. They were hoping to hide the fact that they're garbage parents who don't love their child. Thanks to the greatest friend ever, that's no longer possible.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
In fact, we actually had one of the commenters proclaim their love to the best man because of this.
Good.
Some commenters actually proposed you should just get every video or picture moment of every event that you had in your life. And, just go ahead and put that voicemail up on it too. Make a compilation of all of it, of all the missed events that they had.
Technology is amazing, by the way, because before that, you never would have been able to catch people being terrible people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we've heard a couple of them now through the power of technology being shown their own BS. So it's nice.
Thank you, Reddit.
Like I said, focus on the better part of your life because you're starting your next journey.
And the best part is you and your wife are going to have a long, happy life together. Don't let garbage in.
Yep, make every second count. Is that the last one?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Friday.
I tried to end it on a
Yeah, we actually did it. Friday had a good thing. That dance. Well, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
And I'll leave you with the question I always do on Fridays. What are your plans for the weekend? We are going to go celebrate my brother's birthday in Vegas.
Yeah, a show and Dick's Last Resort.
It should be interesting.
It will be. He doesn't know. Happy birthday, Rusty.
Happy birthday, Rusty. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.